Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's February 14th, Valentine's Day here in the U.S. I'm assuming they celebrate Valentine's outside the U.S., but honestly, I don't know. Anyway, happy Valentine's Day to you if you celebrate that. Don't forget to buy your significant other a nice Valentine's gift. Stay out of the doghouse. But anyway, let's talk about trading. Um, Interesting day. A lot of volatility today. There were several news items that came out right around 7:30 this morning, and obviously the market didn't like it. And you can see right at 7:30 up here, there were a couple of chances. This one's a little late in the process, but we'll talk about it. But if you caught this entry right here to the downside, man, that's the only trade you needed today, and you'd have made a bundle. You would have got a runner the whole 9 yards, and you could have made a runner or runners depending on your trading size or whatever. So great trading day. But there's a few things I want to show you about the trading day today that you need to always keep in mind and that are interesting and that are important things to know. Almost always when you have a news item that really affects the market and moves it real quickly, like this big move down here, generally, nothing's ever 100%, but I would say 90% of the time, within a few hours, the market takes that entire move back and resets. And that move started right in here, right around 7:30, and look where the high point was of the day. We got back to that point, to the tick, and the market reset and started down again. And I mean, it's amazing how efficient the ES is. It just does not leave points real quickly and not come back and test them again. And you can see once it came back, the sellers came back in strong again, and off it goes back to the downside. Wouldn't surprise me if we don't get a measured move down like this right here that we had earlier. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Measure that and move down. I'd probably go right there. I might even start from the top up here. But I'd start there first and look for that to be my first target to the downside. So that gets us back down here a little bit lower than where we were previously. And I talked about this yesterday during the on the mid-morning chart, how it was about time for a correction. And the last we kind of went sideways yesterday, and then we sold off a little bit more today. So it didn't surprise me that we had a correction. I was surprised about how strong it was, but it didn't surprise me that we had a correction. So if we get a measured leg down now, I would look for prices to come back down in here. But those resets, and I talked about that this morning in the mid-morning chart, that it wouldn't surprise me at all to see this thing come back and try to trade back up. And it struggled to get going, but once it got going, but also I want to show you, here's the first leg up, and then we corrected some more, which is it's still a little bit of a downward bias here, but we corrected some more. And then look, we got a perfect measured move before we corrected again, but we finally were able to, market was to rocket back up again and take back all of that early morning news item. And that's just amazing how often you will see that happen. Again, it's not 100%, but most of the time when you have a big news move like that, don't be surprised if the market reverses and starts going back in that direction, because it likes to reset and take that all back. This is all this is. This is all emotional trading. People got spooked. It starts moving down, and everybody starts running for the door because they're all spooked and they're scared and they're on the wrong side. And then a little buying will come back in. It'll find some support, and people gather their wits again, and they say, "Oh." It starts going back up, and they say, "Oh, I should have stayed in," and they start buying and ride it back up, and it just starts to, it resets the process. So that's very common. Remember that. The other thing is to remember these two legs. Early on, I would have been looking. Anyway, when we made this leg down, once we started lower again here, I would have measured that leg and moved it to here first, because we could have made a measured leg down and made two legs down. But we didn't. We ended up making two measured legs back up. Now we could make a measured leg down again, as I showed you earlier. So keep that in mind. But once again, here's your first leg up right there. And then we reset, and I'd measure it from here because that's really where the downtrend, and I'd measure it from there and here. Generally, it's the lowest point. So you can see we actually overshot that just a hair right there, but then we're kind of right across here. So that's probably correct. That's where I would have started, but then later I would have found this next low point. And that pretty much gets you that target right there, almost to the tick. So, oops, didn't mean to do that. I hope I didn't delete the whole chart here. Okay, got it back here. I don't know what I did. I didn't hit the delete button, but I hit something else with it. And you can see the market's still moving down strongly here. So we're probably going to make that measured move down. That is what I'd be looking for regardless, until the market shows me different. So it's not wise to trade these hours here because the volume's so low. It doesn't take much to move the market, and you'll see a lot of manipulation this time of day. The price action generally holds, but it's just very hard to trade. So I'm going to back out where we can see things a little better, and we'll go through the trades and we'll wrap the week up. The first trade I really saw, really at 7 o'clock, was we were right in here, and then 7:30 came. And when it broke below right here, there was really a second entry short right here, but it was a little bit early. But when it tried to go higher and gave you another entry off the long side right there, it makes a little long trap actually. It looked like it was going to be a short trap, and it really fools people the long side. But I would have liked to gone short. You've already got this move down, and notice there's two perfect legs right there, so you're probably going to make another leg down. Go short right there. And you don't know that it's going to do this, but look what happens. I would have at least looked for this measured leg here. And so that puts you way down here. And you can see it bounce there for a minute. And that's why you get that little bounce right there, probably because there's people looking for those measured moves. And they're not waiting for the price action to prove itself. They're guessing. And they're gambling right here that the market's going to bounce after two legs down and hopefully make another leg up. And they're wrong. And they get burned. So don't be one of those. Wait till the price action proves itself. So that's the smart move. And then we made another leg down equal to this one. Notice you got a leg move down, a little correction, then another move down, and there's a second entry long right there. And that thing failed. Technically on this chart it's not because it didn't break higher here, but that's two legs down, and there's your first correction, and you still got room to scalp out before we get down here, and I would assume that that's where we're going at a minimum here. But this thing just takes off once again, and again, you probably would have had a runner there, and look at it go. And it does pull back and test that midline, but you probably don't have that midline at that point. So I really didn't draw this line until we got that swing right there, and then put it all back together, and you can see that's a perfect midline. We bounced at it, and when we pushed through, we came back and tested it. That's exactly what you expect to see. So that's a possibility, but by now we've been way away from the EMA far too long. We've already had way more than a measured move. And so it's starting to get risky every time you enter to the downside here. But you may take that one because it's a little breakout pullback short from this area right here. So I'll at least mark it green. But I think you're better off just to skip it. I definitely wouldn't take any more. Even though they're off this key entry point, I would wait. And then guess what? We pull up, we get a first entry. We pull up. There's actually a second entry short right there. But I was a little leery because we had a break and we looked like we were going to bounce. And but when it tries to go higher again and then turns and goes back down, I'd go short right there. And you possibly could. This is really an inside bar. This is really your signal bar. But you might take that looking for it to try to make that new low because we don't have it in with a trend that strong. You're going to try to make a new low, and you're probably going to try to make another leg down at some point. So you could possibly enter there, but that's not really your signal bar. But I still probably wouldn't have a problem if you were trying to be aggressive entering there. But if you just wait a few seconds later, um, you get a failed second entry long right there and a chance to go short. It goes higher and turns, it goes out the other side. Notice that new high coming down. First entry, then you start correcting again. Second entry, it fails, off it goes. And you do have enough room to get out there. So I like that one. And that's another fairly nice move down. Then it bounces. You got a little trend working higher, but I wouldn't take any longs here. You don't really get a good reversal type pattern. You do get a failed second entry short here, and it would have worked, but look how we're still below the EMA, and I'd just kind of wait and see, and you can see we end up going shorter. But notice that high, you get, this is your first break of this trend. There's a little trend channel real tight here. It's first break. You get a first entry, then you pull back. You get that second leg down. So now you got two legs down. It gives you a second entry and it fails. It goes higher and turns, goes short right there. And off it goes back down again. Ends up bouncing. Then we pull up, you get a first entry, you go through the EMA, pull back, you get a second entry. This is a pretty good setup right here. Again, I didn't mark it because we're still, look how flat the EMA is, but that could mean we're about to reverse, but we could be working on that next leg down as well. So I'm not as crazy about that trade. When it tried to go lower again, and then gave you a second entry right here. Actually, you made a new high, pulled back first entry, then you pulled back here. It didn't break lower, but it still gave you a lower high. That's a second entry long, so I definitely marked that one. But you could have entered here. This is right at the EMA, but it does close through there. So I'll at least make it green. You wouldn't have got any runners on that one. You would have got a runner on this one because we never came back enough to get your break evens there. There's another pull back, two legs back right here, but that bar's too bearish. And actually, while I'm thinking about that, remember where we stopped here. Somebody asked me what I consider a perfect signal bar. Well, your signal bar should always be a trend bar in the direction you're wanting to enter. This is a perfect signal bar. It opened here, closed, or traded way up here, turned back down and closed on this very low. That's a good signal bar. It's not too big either. That's a perfect signal bar. Here's one. This is not really a signal bar, but assuming this bar made the high, opened on its very high and closed on its very low. If you're trying to go short, that is a strong signal bar. Here's a perfect signal bar to the upside. Got a lot. It opens, closes, it trades down, trades all the way back up and closes on its very high. So if you're wanting to go long, that's a good bullish reversal bar that's very strong. Here's another one, real small, only a couple of ticks, closes on its high. That's a good signal bar. So a bad signal bar or not so good, this is a not so good signal bar, but you got a trap there on a failed second entry long, so it's not as important. But notice how it's a bearish bar, but it doesn't close on its very low. It recovered a little bit. So that's not a good sign. That's a fairly good bar right there. Of course, not all these are signal bars, so I'm just showing you what the bar looks like. That's a fairly nice reversal bar. It didn't close quite on. Let me make this a little bigger. Quite on its high, but that's still a fairly strong signal bar. That's a fairly strong signal bar. Again, it one tick from closing on its high, but that's a lot of buying up through there. There's one that opened on its very low, closed on its very high. It's a great long signal bar. If it was sitting right here, this is really your signal bar. Your signal bar is always the lowest bar or the highest bar in the swing. If you're coming down, it's going to be the highest bar, like right here or right here. And if you're going up, it's going to be the lowest bar, like right here and right here. On all these swings, it's your lowest bar, right here, right here, right here. Whenever you're correcting, the lowest point in that swing is your signal bar. Right here, right here, right here. Not all of them are good signal bars, but I'm just pointing them out to you so that you know. But yeah, that's a good signal bar. This is a good signal bar. It's a pretty good signal bar. If this bar right here was sitting in this point, look, it opens up, it trades down a little bit, reverses, and buys all the way up and closes on its very high. That's a strong signal bar if it was sitting right here. Right here, it's not really a signal bar, but I'm just showing you what the bar would look like. Here's another one. This is a signal bar. It's a higher low. Look how it opens, trades down a little bit, then turns and trades all the way up and closes on its very high. That's a nice, strong, bullish signal bar. That's a pretty bearish signal bar right there. Opens on its high, closes one tick off its low. That's, you'd like it better if it closed at the very low, but that's still good enough. Here's one. Look at the stem up here, and it closes on its very low. If that was sitting up here, that's the ideal signal bar. Here's another one that's pretty good, fairly bearish bar for a short. It opens here, it trades up, then it trades down, and it trades one tick from being on its very low. Pretty good signal bar. There's another one. Opens way up here, trades down and closes. Here's another bullish one. It's one tick. Oh, it's a pretty good bar. See, this is not a great signal bar to go short because it's got a lot of buying in it, halfway in it. It closes almost in the middle. But there's a trap here, which we'll talk about when we get to it. So anyway, I hope that makes sense for that trader that asked. I think we'd stop talking about this one. So we're still working up in this channel, and we come back to the EMA right here, or I'm sorry, the trend line. But notice that high, you pull back, you get a first entry, and you come back again, and you really get a second entry long when it breaks higher right here. So it looked like it was going to be a long trap, but don't dare go short into that EMA and that trend line. But when it fails and turns back up, that's a good it opened here and traded down, and then reverses, and all that buying comes in. And I wouldn't have any problem going long right there. That's a great entry, and off it goes. You wouldn't have got a runner on that one, but it's still a good trade. And this is actually a double bottom, so it pulls back once, twice. So you could look at that as a trap. So that might be another one you might consider. But, we've been trading up this trend line a good ways, and you've been away from the EMA since right in here. So it's starting to get a little risky here. If you took this one, when it broke higher above this bar, it works. So, I'll at least make it green. But you see it didn't go very far before it pulls back and makes a new low. So if you didn't enter this properly, you might have got stopped out only to see it go exactly where you thought it would go. There's a little bit of, notice how we're going sideways, a little bit of congestion. There's also a perfect doji in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars stacked up side by side. It's just not a very good setup, and it's right into the highs. I don't even like making it green, but I'll leave it there. This was your better entry. If you were just patient a minute, you get another entry, a little tick or two better on a second entry with a relatively bullish bar, pretty good signal bar, and look what happens this time. It takes off like a rocket. Then it reverses. I marked this one green because it is a strong sell-off bar, signal bar. And you did have your close here, and you got a couple of legs up to a new high, and you're a long way away from the EMA. You're overdue to come back, if nothing else, just to the EMA. So if you want to be aggressive, that's the one to take. And look how you get rewarded for it. That's the thing about these. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to be able to pick them out. And they're risky, but for a little bit more risk, look at the reward you get. Boom, look at that sell-off. And then you get a break of your trend line here. Tries to make a new low, and then it bounces again. You're working up. There's a higher low here, but it's kind of hard to know what to do here. But notice what happens. You run up. You make a double top. So that's like a new high, and then you try to go higher. Once, twice. Fails. So you might go short right there. Notice how we're making lower highs each time, and we're also making lower closes each time. So you might take that trade right there. Once we bounced again, I'm getting a little leery of all this in here. There's not really any good setups. You can see there's not a very good signal bar here, and you finally get a good signal bar here, and notice that high first entry, second entry. It's a failed second entry long. It's basically, really, there was a second entry short right here. So, but you could still look at this like two corrections. So you may in another leg up. So, but the main thing is look how bearish. That's a perfect signal bar. And so you may go short right there. And it runs down, and then suddenly it bounces. There's a failed second entry short right here, but again, look how we're going sideways right there. A lot of stems and stuff. Pretty dangerous. And then it comes back again. It does give you a relatively strong signal bar here, but it is a first entry when it breaks above it right here. And so I'm not crazy about that one. You could probably mark that one green, because once it breaks higher, look at it go. Once it breaks higher, takes off. Then you get a little correction here. Really, you're just kind of going sideways here. There is a downward trend right here. Everything's still above the EMA right here where we start going sideways. And then we finally drop below and we break higher then. And you can see how, by that time, you can see how flat the EMA is getting. And then you get a little failed break lower here. There's a couple legs down in a bullish bar right at the lows down here. You might take that one. There's the first entry, second entry, but that's bar is too neutral to bullish. But you get a lower high right here, and it actually breaks higher and turns and comes out the other side. You got to be careful going back into that EMA, but it's pretty obvious now there's a range here, and I probably would have moved this down to about here by that point. Because notice how we're starting to bounce right across there, and we got that one little failed break lower. So this gives you enough room to get out. So I like that trade. Too bullish signal bar right into the lows here. You don't want to go short there. And when it fails on the breakout there, you get a second entry long here. And I like that one because notice there's a double top. So new high, first entry, second entry right there. Second entry long, and look at it go. There's actually a little breakdown, and it actually goes lower and turns and goes out this way. I don't know which way it went first, so it could have broke out the top and turned down and then went back up, and that would probably change everything. But if it went out the low side and turned and went back up, I wouldn't have a problem going long right there because it's just a few minutes into 2 o'clock. So I'll just mark it green. No, just make sure you understand the situation there. It's a possibility though. That's just barely after 2 o'clock, just a few minutes into 2 o'clock. So, and you notice how it runs off up here because that could end up being your major or your important low. There's not much trading day left, but really better off is this makes an important high. If you could have got short there, that's a perfect signal bar. Look at it go. Man, there's another perfect signal bar. It opens down here, trades all the way up to here, and then they beat it right back down, and it closes where it started. That's a strong bearish signal bar. So anyway, that's what I saw today. Hopefully the stuff we talked about early at the beginning was helpful to you. But we had this big leg down, then we had 2 legs up. And I talk about this a lot. Notice how easy that move down, how straight it is. Well, the next leg down will probably be more choppy. Look how choppy this leg was up. And you had 2 legs. There's really 2 legs of correction here. And then look, this was not nearly as choppy. On the way back up, it takes off. So that's, if you get one choppy leg, you're probably going to get one more, I don't want to say smoother, but less choppiness. Just like this one's almost straight down, and then look how choppy this one's been. We don't know for sure that this is the next leg down, but assuming it is, look how choppy it is. But look how choppy we are going up here, but then look at the next leg, how smooth it is and just straight up almost. So that's what I'm getting at. But anyway, this ran a little long today, almost 25 minutes worth, so I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to wrap up our week. I meant to look, I'm going to pause real quick and look about President's Day. I'm not sure if the market's closed, but let me look real quick. Okay, you can see here that the market does halt at noon on Monday, so Monday's basically a holiday. There won't be anything worth watching. So we're gonna have an extended weekend. No trading Monday, so um, hope everybody has a great extended weekend. And we'll be back to do it Tuesday rather than Monday. So I'm gonna wrap it up. We're 25 minutes plus here, so this is getting a little bit long. So I'm gonna quieten down and call it a week. And we'll be back again to do it Tuesday. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.